A Parent's Love. I'm an old man now, but I remember that day clearly. It was a rainy afternoon. The clouds were dark and the air was cold. I was sitting by the window holding a cup of tea. My hands were shaking. My thoughts were heavy. I was thinking about my parents. They were gone, but their love still surrounded me. When I was young, I didn't understand their sacrifices. I only saw their rules, their worries, and their tired faces. I didn't see their love. One memory stood out in my mind. I was 10 years old. It was winter, and our house was very cold. We didn't have much money, and our heater was broken. My father came home late that night. His face was red from the cold and his hands were rough. He carried a heavy bag. Inside there was wood for the fire and warm blankets. My mother smiled, but I saw her eyes were wet. She didn't say anything, but I knew those blankets weren't cheap. That night, I was warm. I slept under the blanket while my parents sat close to the fire. They didn't use the new blankets. They shared an old one instead. At the time, I didn't think about it. I just felt safe. Now, as I sit here, I understand. That night was their love. Their warmth wasn't just from the fire, it was from their hearts. They gave me everything, even when they had little for themselves. The years passed, but that memory stayed with me. I grew older, and life became harder. Our small house was always filled with laughter, but it was also filled with struggle. My parents worked every day. My father worked in the fields, and my mother sewed clothes for the neighbors. One summer, I wanted a bicycle. All my friends had one, and I felt left out. I asked my father, "Can we buy a bicycle?" He looked at me with tired eyes and said, "Maybe one day, son." I didn't understand why he hesitated. To me, it was just a bicycle. A few months later, on my birthday, my father surprised me. There was a bicycle in front of our house. It was old and scratched, but it was mine. I was so happy that I didn't care how it looked. Later that evening, I heard my parents talking. My father told my mother I worked extra hours in the field to buy that bike. It's second-hand, but it made him smile. My mother replied, "You did well. He'll remember this forever." At that moment, I realized something. My father didn't just work for money, he worked for me. Every drop of sweat was for my happiness. Every tired night was for my future. As I rode the bike the next morning, I felt free. The wind touched my face and I laughed. But in my heart, I also felt something new. Gratitude. I didn't say it, but I silently thanked my parents. They had given me more than a bicycle. They had given me their love. When I became a teenager, life grew more complicated. I wanted new clothes, books, and even to travel like some of my friends. But I knew we didn't have much money. My father still worked in the fields, and my mother took in sewing jobs to help. One day, I came home from school feeling upset. My teacher had announced a school trip to the city. All my friends were going, but I didn't ask my parents. I knew we couldn't afford it. That evening, my father noticed my silence. "What's wrong, son?" he asked. I hesitated, but then I told him about the trip. He listened carefully and didn't say anything. The next morning, I saw him leave the house earlier than usual. He carried his tools and didn't look back. A week later, on the night before the trip, my father handed me an envelope. Inside, there was enough money for the trip. "Go enjoy yourself," he said with a smile. I asked, "But how did you get this money?" He replied, "I worked a few extra shifts at the farm. Don't worry about it. The trip was amazing. I saw tall buildings, busy streets, and so many new things. But even as I enjoyed the city, I kept thinking about my father. He had sacrificed his rest, his energy, just to make me happy. When I returned home, I hugged him tightly. 'Thank you, Dad,' I said. He smiled and patted my back. 'Your happiness is all I need,' he replied. Those words stayed with me for the rest of my life. That was the moment I understood something important. Parents give their children more than food and shelter. They give them dreams. They give them their time, their effort, and their love. As I grew older, I began to understand more about my parents' struggles. My father's hands were rough from years of hard work. My mother's eyes looked tired, but she always smiled when she saw me. They never complained, even when life was tough. One winter, a terrible storm hit our village. The roof of our house began to leak, and the wind blew through the cracks in the walls. I felt cold, even under my blanket. My parents didn't say much, but I saw the worry on their faces. The next morning, my father went out early. He returned with wood and tools. My mother made him hot tea as he worked all day fixing the roof. I wanted to help, but I didn't know how. I watched him climb the ladder, hammering nails and covering the holes. By evening, the roof was strong again. The wind could no longer get inside. That night, as we sat by the fire, my father said, "A home must keep its family safe." His words stayed with me. I realized how much he did for us without expecting anything in return. My mother was no different. She worked late into the night, sewing clothes for neighbors. Sometimes she would sing softly as she worked. I asked her once, "Why do you work so hard, Mom?" She smiled and said, "Because I want you to have a better life." Their love was not loud or dramatic. It was in their actions, in the way they cared for me every day. They didn't have much to give, but they gave everything they could. That kind of love is rare and precious. As I sat by the fire that night, I promised myself something. I would never take their love for granted. I would always remember their sacrifices and try to make them proud. That promise became my guiding light in life. Years passed, and I became a young man. I left home to study in the city. It was the first time I had been away from my parents. The city was noisy and crowded, very different from our quiet village. I missed the warm smell of my mother's cooking and my father's gentle advice. Living alone was hard. I had to work and study at the same time. Some nights I was so tired that I could barely keep my eyes open. But every week I received a letter from my parents. My mother always wrote, "We are proud of you." My father added, "Take care of yourself." One day I received a package from home. Inside was a sweater my mother had made. It was warm and soft, perfect for the cold city weather. There was also a note. It said, "We know life is hard, but we believe in you." Tears filled my eyes as I held the sweater. Their love felt so close, even though we were far apart. When I finally graduated, my parents came to the city to attend the ceremony. They looked so proud as they watched me walk across the stage. Afterward, my father hugged me tightly and said, "You did it, son." My mother's eyes were shining with happiness. That night, we had dinner together in a small restaurant. My parents didn't say much, but I could see their joy in their smiles. I realized that every step I had taken was because of their support and love. After graduation, I found a good job and started saving money. My dream was to buy my parents a better house, one without cracks in the walls or leaks in the roof. They deserved comfort after all they had done for me. Their love had given me strength, and now it was my turn to give back. I wanted to make them proud, not just with words, but with actions. I wanted to show them how much their sacrifices meant to me. Years passed, and I became a father myself. Holding my newborn child for the first time was a moment I will never forget. I looked into those small, innocent eyes and felt a love so deep it overwhelmed me. It was then I truly understood my parents' sacrifices. Raising a child is not easy. There were days when I was tired, but I remembered my father working tirelessly to keep us safe. There were nights when I worried about the future, but I remembered my mother's calm voice telling me that love makes everything possible. One day, as I was fixing a broken chair, my son came running to me. He held a drawing in his tiny hands. It was a picture of our family, with a big heart drawn around us. "This is for you, Dad," he said. My heart swelled with pride and tears filled my eyes. I realized that love is a cycle. My parents gave me their love, and now I was passing it on to my child. It is a gift that grows with each generation. The love I received shaped me, and now it was shaping my son. Sometimes, when I sit quietly, I think of my parents. I remember their smiles, their gentle words, and their tireless efforts to give me a better life. I hope they know how grateful I am, even if I didn't say it enough when they were alive. Now, as an old man, I see love differently. It is not about grand gestures or expensive gifts. It is in the little things: a warm meal, a repaired roof, a comforting hug. It is in the quiet moments when words are not needed. Looking back, I know I was blessed. My parents' love was the foundation of my life. It taught me strength, kindness, and the value of family. And for that, I will always be thankful.